Hey everyone, Dave here from Saturday Morning Cartoons with a special midweek interview. We're able to bring you this bonus episode thanks in part to Patreon supporters like Derek Haynes, Jake Grimshaw, Jamal Newman, Melanie Harker, John Helter, and the one and only Sean Paul Ellis. Head on over to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons, and remember, that's morning with a U, to give us a $1 holler or more. Every little bit helps. Recently, I had a chance to chat with She-Ra and the Princesses of Power creator Noelle Stevenson about the newly released Season 4. There are some spoilers ahead for this season in this chat, along with some teases for Season 5, so just be aware of that. During our chat, we talked about new arrivals in Season 4, like Double Trouble and Horde Prime, and their part to play in the story, both in this season and going forward. We also talked about how the Season 4 finale completely changes the game for all the characters, and what that means for everyone in Season 5. All 13 episodes of the new season of She-Ra are currently streaming on Netflix, and it's quite possibly the best season yet. You can read my full review over on Collider or check the show notes below for a link, but having 13 episodes instead of 6 or 7 really gives the characters a chance to grow and change over the course of this season. Season 4 features some of the brightest and most fun moments of the series so far, like Glimmer's coronation ceremony and the Boys' Night Out episode featuring musical numbers, which everyone's been waiting for. But it also features a darker turn for the show's mythology. With the arrival of Horde Prime, the fate of Etheria and our heroes is threatened like never before. I, for one, can't wait to see what happens next season, and for more on that, here's my interview with Noelle Stevenson. Okay, so thank you for taking the time to speak with me today, and actually, first of all, before we even get started, congratulations on your wedding. The last we spoke...
Thank you so much.
Yeah, the last we spoke, it was ahead of that, so we didn't get a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, so excited to be married. It is amazing.
And then in my awkward way to kind of tie that into She-Ra, it felt like Glimmer's coronation planning to start this season off maybe had a touch of the stress from wedding planning. Was that just a coincidence, or did you kind of lend some of your real experience to that?
I think, we started working on an episode, I think Molly and I got engaged. So that was something I think was a little bit more, I'm a big fan of wedding planning movies, so that there's definitely some of that in there, but not so much fun from our life, I would say. More so just like, and unfortunately, I think our wedding was not quite so such a huge sort of stressful affair for everybody. It was much more smooth, but definitely I've been a part of big weddings like that at times, and so done a little bit from some real experiences, but not so much from wedding planning, fortunately.
Kind of looking at it narratively speaking, it was a great way to sort of set up the conflicts and the team tensions and the internal tensions for the rest of the season that carried on from there. So was that always kind of part of the idea of like, this is a great kind of fun way to introduce those tensions that are coming before we get to like, the even heavier stuff later on?
Yeah, I think our approach this year has always been, we do want to delve into these weighty themes. We do want to, tackle hard topics, but we never want to leave the fun behind. So that's where it's sort of turned into like the classic She-Ra episode. Structure is kind of like it's all fun and games and wacky hijinks, and then everyone's crying. I think it's a great way to kind of just like, I never wanted to just feel heavy, and there were a lot of episodes that, maybe at first because the stuff that needed to happen in them was heavy, they started feeling a little heavy, and then, the writers and I took another look at them, and we found more ways to bring that fun out, which the No Mysteries episode is another good example of that, which initially that one was pure kind of war planning and strategy, until we were like, wait, no, there has to be a more fun way into this. We can still have all that, kind of sad and heavy stuff, but we always wanted to come from a place of where we can see some of the lightness and bring out the characters in fun ways.
And speaking of the lighter and the fun side of She-Ra as well, when I spoke to you in August, and Marcus as well, you guys kind of teased the possibility of some musical numbers, some musical episodes, so we got to see that in Season 4, which was fantastic. So how challenging was that to put together, and what are chances maybe to do something similar in the future?
Honestly, I was really worried about our ability to pull that one off, and then it came together Actually, it ended up coming together so well. I feel like that was one of the episodes that just everything fell into place. And all of our worries were sort of for naught. Our Shane Lynch, she's our writer's assistant, script coordinator, and this was one of her first couple of episodes that she ever wrote, and she did such an amazing job. And it ended up being an episode where everything just fell into place. The music all came together really well. I think I told you in our last interview, I love making Marcus sing. I think he's one of the non-singers in our cast, but he just always gives it his all, and he always has such a great time. I especially love watching him and Jordan record together because they just have so much fun. So yeah, everything I was kind of like, oh, can we pull this off? All of those worries ended up not even factoring in, and it came together so well. I'm so pleased with it.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it, and I would love to see more of that in the future if you guys find a way to work that into the script, which is getting increasingly kind of dire and world-threatening. So I don't know where you'll find the room for it.
I will keep that in mind.
Absolutely. I definitely want to spend some time talking about some new characters that you introduced this season. So specifically, Double Trouble. Can you talk about sort of modernizing a character that didn't really appear much in the original cartoon, but existed in the mythology, and also finding the voice and persona in Jacob Tobia?
Yeah, I think Double Trouble didn't actually appear in the show at all in the original. So it was actually I wouldn't even say it's a challenge. In fact, it was more of just kind of this exciting opportunity to showcase a character that hadn't really been showcased before, but had so much potential. Anyone who's kind of familiar with my work knows that I love shapeshifters so much, and I think just about every story that I've ever told that has a shapeshifter character involved in some way. And I'm feeling like I'm always just like exploring new ways of a character is able to control at their own whim what their relationship to the world is and what their relationship to other people is, that they can kind of just snap their fingers and instantly change how they're perceived, which I think is a fantasy of mine, especially but for so many gender non-conforming and non-binary people. What if you could just change your appearance based on how you were feeling in that moment? So I think it was something that just felt like, we had always been planning to find a way to incorporate this character. It was just a question of when. And this season was so much kind of mixing up of good and evil and putting relationships to the test. It felt like it was the perfect time for them to really wreak some havoc among our main characters. And, Jacob just brought, I think what's so fun about them is that they just bring this they're just having so much fun. They almost are just taking this joy in the chaos, that they're above it all, and they're a little bit untouchable, which I think is really fun. And all of our other characters are kind of so emotionally invested and so embroiled in all of this, and Double Trouble just gets to kind of be this puckish sort of low-key figure, just kind of meddling here and there. Part of it is because it's their job, and part of it is just that they're having so much fun. So, I think it was so great getting to write and direct this character, and I can't wait for everyone to meet them.
Absolutely, yeah, and I love that you said chaos and low-key figure, because those definitely came through, and you could tell that they were having so much fun with this character, but also kind of, they get to kind of tweak the narrative to their own whims or choose whichever side suits their desires at the moment, that was really cool. It was neat to see that kind of third party thrown in there. Yeah. Getting into a little bit more spoiler territory, you also get to introduce a better look at Horde Prime at the end here. So how many kind of iterations of that design did you go through, and how difficult was that maybe to bring your own version of Horde Prime into the series?
It's really interesting because I think that Horde Prime has been this shadow hanging over the series, and from the writing perspective, we've always planned to bring Horde Prime in as the kind of the actual big bad, especially when Hordak is sort of revealed to be surprisingly vulnerable. And I think that, really learning who Horde Prime is, I think it recontextualizes Hordak in a really big way, even more so than what we learned in season 3, where we find out that he's a clone, and we find out that he's doing all of this to try and, re-earn his place by Horde Prime's side. But also at the end of season 4, we realized that Hordak kind of got the story wrong. We sort of see that everything he was trying to do with the Fright Zone was sort of a rip-off of what Horde Prime was doing. He was trying to make clones. He was trying to control people and make this army, and it all came out a little chaotic. He ends up with mostly an army of what seems like war orphans. Whereas Horde Prime his aesthetic is so clean. It is so oddly beautiful, eerily beautiful. He seems so cool and charming and in control, and it's terrifying. And we also see that he is a character who seems to have full control of Hordak and of the universe. So seeing how easily he completely not just takes control of Hordak, but completely wipes him, and it's like, oh crap, this is even worse than we thought he would be. He's not just this, kind of conquer the way that Hordak is. He's someone who doesn't just conquer, he takes full control. He completely imposes his will. And I think because of that, he almost has this more genteel, he carries himself in this very elegant way. He doesn't seem to be as angry or as, he doesn't really yell. He doesn't, he doesn't yell right away. He's very measured. And so I think in that way, he's a surprise. It was something, Keston, who voices both Hordak and Horde Prime, and I can't wait for everyone to see future episodes where he's kind of doing not just Horde Prime, but all his clones, and bringing all of these different voices to all of them. It's amazing to watch. But he actually, every time he records Horde Prime, he kind of puts in earphones and listens to classical music while he does it. And it's incredible to watch, but it also is so kind of that is this character. He thinks that he's doing the right thing, that he's bringing, light and order to everything. He's just remaking it in his own image. And I think that is the most terrifying thing to all of our characters who have all been looking for identity, and what their place in the world is. And now Horde Prime is here, and he kind of just wipes the board clean again. So I can't wait for everyone to see even more of him. He is absolutely terrifying and just incredible to watch.
Very cool. I think I've said this before, but I think She-Ra handles villains better than quite literally any other show on TV right now. You don't ever know exactly what you're going to get with a villain when you have what you think is a hero, and they turn out to have their own designs, their own plans, their own machinations, and they become more of an antagonist than you ever thought. Like the twists you don't see coming, the ones that maybe you do, they're still delightfully done. I really do think this handles villains better than anything else on TV right now. Saying that...
Oh, thank you so much.
And of course, and speaking of Horde Prime, what would you say maybe is kind of an overarching theme to this particular season? For me, and maybe I'm off base, but for me it was a lot about agency and a lot about consent, because multiple characters are kind of forced into taking on roles or positions that they don't necessarily want and don't necessarily have a way out.
Yeah, I think that's true. The characters, they have been placed in a position that they've never been in before, where all of them have to step up and take on a greater responsibility. So I think the premise of the entire show has been searching for identity and searching for your place in the world, and in asking how you see yourself and how does the world see you versus how do you see yourself. So this season, I think, especially with Glimmer, it is taking these characters and putting them in a context where everything about how they see themselves has changed. So Glimmer has always sort of been, she's rebelling, she's kind of pushing against her mother being this obstacle in her way, kind of trying to pull her back and protect her when she wants to show everyone that she's capable. And suddenly, she's the one in a position of authority, and suddenly she doesn't have that thing to push back against anymore. Suddenly she's the one who is setting the rules, giving the orders, and it completely changes how she sees herself. It completely changes her relationship to the world, to her friends, to herself. And it's the same with Patra, who again is she's going after what she thinks she wants. She's achieving what she thinks she wants, and has no way of confronting, the sort of complete brokenness inside her. And Adora as well, she's looking for her destiny. She thinks she's found it. She thinks that she's found the right way to be She-Ra, that she can finally fulfill her purpose and save everybody and do it right, and then the rug is jerked out from her yet again, and everything is taken from her again. She-Ra is not what she thought it was. The sword is not what she thought it was. Etheria is not what she thought it was. And just when she thinks she's starting to exert her own, her own self-individuation, she finds out that this has all been part of this bigger plot the whole time, that her just being on Etheria in the first place was just her being a cog in another machine. And so I think at the end of this season, our characters have reached so hard for what they thought they had to be. And with the arrival of Horde Prime, it kind of, everything is taken from them. And so I think that it leaves us in a really interesting place at the start of the next season because, the thing that they all thought they had to do to be who they thought they had to be, it all got wiped away. And so now the question is actually, who are these characters? Who are they really inside? And how are they going to figure that out now that the stakes are higher than ever?
Those are great teases, and I'm sure those are questions that you can't answer now because we have to wait for season 5. But unfortunately, I think I'm fine today. Thank you so much for taking time to speak with me. I can't wait to see everybody's reaction to season 4. And then even more, looking ahead to season 5.
Dave here again to say thanks to Noelle and the teams at Netflix and DreamWorks for this special interview for Season 4 of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. Be sure to check it out on Netflix now and keep an eye and an ear out for more interviews and reviews from the Saturday Morning Cartoons team in the days, weeks, and months ahead. Thanks again.